Well, good evening again, everybody. This is Lynn Gardner. Welcome to the Dream Series call. This is actually the last of this Dream Series. I cannot believe so much time has passed, and we're actually coming in for a close. And I can't stress enough how this course has impacted my life. And I think I've shared with you guys, if you've been on the call before, that I've just had trouble with that dream part of my life, and there are a lot of reasons for that, I guess. But it really helps me a lot to be able to look at this with a logical mind and be able to understand that there is a process, it's a non-negotiable process that we're all going to go through as we pursue that dream. And, of course, we know that God planted the seed of the dream. I do want you guys to know also that after this course, a couple weeks from now, I will announce it, we're going to do just a very short series on forgiveness. A little bit in general about forgiveness and what we might be harboring that is in the way of us, moving forward, but also in forgiving ourselves. And I think a lot of people, I being one of them, struggles with that. The phone numbers are going to change, and that's because of the service that we're using has done some tweaking, so it's toll-free for every cell phone user. I didn't know that was an issue. But look out for the announcements in a couple of weeks or so. But before we move into this final stage, and it's a wow one, by the way, I just want to take a minute to review the 6 stages that we've already gone through. Stage one, of course, is that dream. And as you consider the dream, we often say in our business that we call it a why, and we say if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough, And so the dream, as you discover it or you embrace it, whatever the case is, should make your heart beat. You should be treasuring that dream. You should be really excited about your partnership with the one who planted the seed of that dream. And you should be excited that you're going to be able to move forward with something that has been within you all along, maybe a source of frustration or maybe a source of financial struggles, whatever. But now it's victory time. And you see the dream, you're embracing the dream. That's stage one. Stage two, of course, is that comfort zone. And remember that we have boundaries around our lives, and it's just kind of an ordinary life until we are willing and willfully step outside of the comfort zone in our life. We cannot accomplish bigger things in our life, bigger than where you are right this very second, unless you're willing to get outside the comfort zone. So hopefully that dream and the excitement within the dream will propel you and give you the strength and give you the courage to work outside of your comfort zone. None of us succeed in the comfort zone. None of us ever really do anything great in our lives if we stay within the comfort zone. So that's got to happen. Stage number 3 is, we have all those border bullies in our life, well, we're in borderland and not just border bullies, but we have people who have had tried to discourage us. They meant well, but they wanted us to get right back where we started from because our being outside of our comfort zones forced them outside of their comfort zone, and frankly, most people aren't willing to even look at their dreams. So we had to work through a lot of negative there. We also had some people who, just kind of said, attaboy, and didn't care one way or the other, and hopefully we're finding a border champion. Stage number 4 is that wasteland. Gosh, so we think we're making progress. We got the dream, we got the comfort zone, and worked our way through the bullies, and now we're in a wasteland, and we look at that kind of quiet place where we're in the valley, if you will, and we've got to work through all those things in the wasteland, and we're not expecting that. But the wasteland is an important part of the process to decompress, if you will. Stage number 5 is after we've said, okay, now we've got to work through some more stuff. We've got to go quiet a little bit and quit working in our flesh to achieve that dream so much. Now we've got a choice. We've got to shake our heads and wonder what we're going to find. And as we reflect in Sanctuary Mountain, we'll have the still waters where we'll be restored, and we have cleansing waterfalls where we'll be able to cleanse a lot of our character, refine us, if you will, to get rid of those flaws and the weaknesses and to bring us closer to the one who gave us the dream in the first place. And, of course, that is really an awakening time. It's a refreshing time, and it's a time where we actually surrender that dream, where we realize that we're in partnership. We're not in this alone at all. Once we surrender the dream to the one who planted the seed of the dream, he gives it right back to us, and now we've got a partner for eternity. And then stage number 6 is the Valley of the Giants. So we get through all this, and, some people just believe that life, should be easier, especially people of faith. But, we're going to encounter these battles forever. That's a given. It's a spiritual, truth that we're going to, even though we've gone through all the other stages, stage number 6, we're still going to have those things that get in our way. With the things that make us press into our faith, the things that don't shake us anymore because of where we are, the things that, we are so grateful for the partnership that we have, because we might get rattled every once in a while, but we know we don't lose because we're in partnership and we've worked on that phase of our lives. So, it's a big process. I heard from a few people who said things like, that's too complicated, or I don't need all that stuff. I just need to keep moving, Some said, I just want to keep rolling with the flow, and I'm going to chase my why or my purpose, my dream, whatever we're labeling it, right? I'm just going to roll with the flow and chase that, and I'm just going to keep trusting God, right? And those of you who know me well know that I often refer to spiritual slugs, and frankly, that's a spiritual slug, because it all sounds well and good, but that makes us no different than a bird or a squirrel or any other part of nature. You see, they keep moving forward. They keep rolling with the flow. And they keep chasing their purpose or their abundance, if you will, their provisions, and they keep trusting God, frankly. But they have no intellect. God gave us an intellect. So it's not okay to just sit back and press on, say it's cool, I'm trusting God, because it's a lot bigger than that, and God gave you an intellect, expects you to use it. So refusing to look at the process that we have to go through, that it takes to accomplish what He wants for our life, refusing to focus on truth, frankly, that's right there in black and white right before us all, doesn't make it not so. It just means that you choose not to do it, right? Either way, either we get on track and we get to work to accomplish the seed of the dream that He planted within us. Either we do the work and we look forward to our rewards well beyond now, or we call it a day with what could be labeled as a wasted life. I'm going to tell you something. That scares the stew out of me. This is my 60th year, and I don't want to think that I would have gone through the whole thing and have wasted my life. I put out there on Facebook recently, I have, a couple thousand friends and 1,000 followers. I could write something silly about a cat or a deer and get, pretty good activity. But I put out there recently, what's going to be said about you when you die? What will your tombstone say? What will the world say about you? And it was interesting to see that only, maybe 3 people responded, something like that. Why? We don't want to think about it. We think if we stick our head in the sand, we don't have to worry about it. That it doesn't make it go away, guys. What will the world say about you? Will there be a void here when you're gone? I know it doesn't mean anything whatsoever, and it's probably a silly thought to have in the first place. But maybe you've been in the same place where I've gone to a memorial service for someone, and there's 5 or 6 people there. I mean, I'm devastated. And all I can think is, what did this person do with their life? And I know that's not right of me. I'm not judging, okay? But I look at my own life and say, wow, would there only be 5 or 6 people there for me? And what I do I not make a bigger impact in this world than there would only be a handful of people? It's interesting as we go through life. I'm sure you hear some of these things every day, where you hear people say things like, what's the purpose of this life? What is this life all about? Sometimes people get to a point where they'll say, is this all there is? I'm sure you've heard that dozens of times in your life. Usually, frankly, when we get to the point of, is this all there is, that's usually about midlife, where people start contemplating, what have I done and where am I going? And they look at it and say, is this all there is? Some people say, well, I don't even know what my purpose is. So they don't even want to dig for it. They don't know what it is, and that's okay with them. And then there are those who say things like, life's too hard. Or they might say, I just wish the Lord will return right now. This is just too hard. Or they might say, you know what, I'm tired of living. I'm ready to go home. Well, let me tell you something. Being ready or being prepared, if you will, to meet your Maker is one thing. But doing nothing until it's time to go home is a whole different ballgame. And that's something that shouldn't be okay with any one of us. But why do we get there? Why are there so many people, even on this call, who say, I have no clue. I guess I should know what my dream is. I don't even know if I have a dream. And some of the people that I already referenced said it's too complicated and they moved on, right? But what is the reason that we aren't facing these things? And it really only boils down to one of 3 things. The first thing is you don't think you're worth it. Now, you might ruffle up at that, or you might relate to that right off the bat, but I can tell you something, not thinking you're worth it is a very dangerous place to be in more ways than one. I went through this season of my life, and it was a devastating trial in my life. it was devastating, just putting one foot in front of the other. I mean, I didn't want to hurt myself, but I did not want to live. And I believed that I was so not worth it. I told myself, well, I thought you were smarter than that. I thought you were better than that. I beat myself up like you have never seen before, and I didn't believe within 1 ounce of me that I was worth anything good, nothing. And I told myself that over and over. But, then I got into healing mode a little bit, and I started saying, wait a minute, time out. I'm a child of the living God. He knit me together in my mother's womb. He knew me before the foundations of the earth. He's the one I live for. He's the one who's beside me. He's the one who knows every breath I take, every hair on my head, and he has a plan for my life. How in the world, far be it from me and shame on me to ever think I'm not worth it. So if you're in that mode, that's a dangerous place to be, because not only will you get stuck there, but as I worked my way through that, I realized how shameful that was. And I realized how it was like spitting in the face of my God. If he thinks that I'm worth dying for, if he knew me before he ever knew the earth, and he put me exactly where he wants to me at the exactly point in time in history, I am here taking this breath because he gives it to me, how dare I say I'm not worth it? Rest assured, friend, you're worth it. You are worth more than gold to him. So if you're struggling with that part, I would suggest that you do something like I did. I actually affirmed those words every day. When I felt like I didn't even want to look in the mirror, I would say, wait a minute, I'm a child of the living God. I proclaimed who I am in this life. So if that's a struggle for you, you need to start proclaiming. Because you and I, at least those of us of faith, know there's only one thing that will keep us in that place, and it's not a good thing. It's somebody whispering in our ear trying to convince us because we're destined for great things. So number one is you don't think you're worth it. Number two is you don't think it's worth it. And, we saw a little bit of that, as I told you, about people who said, forget about it. It's all too complicated. It's not worth it. Let me tell you, somebody said to me once, I'm sure I've said on this call before, and that is that, if you ask God to use you, you can rest assured you're going to get beaten up. It's not because, he's letting bad things happen to you because he left the throne, he forgot all about you, okay, didn't go take a nap. But if you're going to be used in a big way, rest assured you're going to be refined in a big way. That's the way gold is refined with fire, right? And so I can tell you, I don't want your life. And you don't want my life. And sometimes my life has been judged so deeply by legalism, frankly, when they look at trial after trial after trial after trial after trial. It's just been a roller coaster almost since birth. But you know what? God has big plans for me. So it's when you get past that wasteland, remember, and you get to Sanctuary Mountain, you start saying, I don't want to go through it again. But I'm glad and I see the purpose in all of it. I often say to people, that I wish I had a DVD that I could hand you and say, here you go, I want you to watch this DVD. This is me before Christ. I'm unrecognizable. You wouldn't know who I was until he got a hold of me, and I went through the fire, and I got refined, and I'm going to tell you from where I'm sitting at the end of the fire, and it won't be I haven't seen my last fire. I know that, right? But I know it's all been worth it. So number one is you don't think you're worth it, and number two is you don't think it's worth it. Maybe you're looking at that list, of the stages that we're going to go through, and you, for the first time, you're actually, intellectually processing all this. You're thinking, holy moly, I mean, who wants to do all that stuff? Who wants to go through those stages? Who wants to take on the pain? But rest assured, it's worth it. So it's either that you're not worth it, it's not worth it, or frankly, you just don't get the fact that you were threaded together, you were ordained, you were created for his purpose. This life isn't about you. It's not about me, okay? You were created for one purpose, and it's his purpose. And we have a job to do that will, not only complete the reason he put us here in the first place, but we have a job to do that will actually bring us rewards beyond this life. So which one are you? You don't think you're worth it, or maybe you don't think it's worth it, or you simply don't get it. It's not possible to please God without faith. We first of all have to believe who he is. We read in Hebrews 11, that's what faith looks like, and it's believing things we don't see. We have to believe who he is. But I'll tell you one thing, faith, we believe who he is, but do we believe what he is? So many people are sitting back waiting for that perfect time. Well, I know God wants me to do, or I've got a dream, whatever the words they are, whatever words they use, and they've got every excuse on the planet, and they blame it on God. He hasn't shown me yet. He hasn't told me yet. He hasn't done this yet. He hasn't done that yet. Good grief, you got a checklist for God that'll blow anybody's mind. But if he put that seed within you and you spoke those words, you better get off the tail and get moving because you have everything that you need. So you have to believe in who he is and believe in what he is. He is who he says he is. And lastly, you have to believe that, that there is a payback. There's a payback eternally for the work that we do here. Now, this isn't all about focusing on money, and it's not, focusing on just your works, right? But we know that our rewards don't necessarily come here, but our rewards will come long after we're here. And the sooner you and I accept that, what we do here will be rewarded for in heaven, the sooner we'll all be walking with a spring in our step, and the sooner, we'll be much more focused on that dream, because that's our mission, at least one phase of it, right, than you are on yourself. If you look back on what I shared with you, the 3 reasons, really it's all self-centered. Either you don't think you're worth it, so you've got that, self-worth, you got a battle going on, right? You got to overcome it. Or you don't think it's worth it. What is that all about? It's all about you. What's too hard, I'm too lazy, I'm a spiritual slug, whatever you put a label on, it's either you don't think it's worth it, and there's a reason you don't think it's worth it. It's self-focused, right? Or you simply don't get it. So the sooner you accept the facts and look at the mission and look at where we are in life, the better off you're going to be. In the spring, you're going to have a step. And the more you realize that not only do you now embrace that dream, you love that dream. You sink yourself into it, and you run like the warrior that you are, because you realize that it's exciting when you finally get it into your soul that you are here for a purpose, and that dream is part of it, right? And so, you know what, there's an illustration here that we use, and bear with me as I find it here, but it's in Hebrews 11. One second here, folks. Bear with me just a second. I have my notes all over the place. Okay, so it says, Hebrews 11:24-26, by faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated. Think about that. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God, rather to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. What reward? What's he looking ahead to? He chose pain and agony. He could have just said, hey, I'm wealthy. I don't have to worry about anything. Somebody's going to be fanning me. I'm never going to have to worry about food. He could have just sat back and said, ain't it great? But he chose instead to go that way. Now, why would he choose that affliction? Why would he make that decision? And the reason is because he was looking at the greater riches. He was looking for the reward beyond where he was that day. The Greek compound, or the word for the wages, or for the riches, if you will, is a compound word which is mesopoderia. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but what it means is the wages for work completed. So we might read that scripture and say, well, that's great. Yeah, he's going to have heavenly rewards. That's great. Saw riches here and won't see riches there. He's getting his reward. But that word actually means wages for work completed. So he was looking for his reward, which was going to be in eternity wages for work completed. We have to work our life according to eternity. Eternal things are really the only thing that matters, right? So we need to be, willing to meet the needs of others, and we need to be chasing that reward. Does our work equate to reward? Sure it does. There's nothing wrong with having money. We've already discussed that. If you think there is, you should have hung up a long time ago. There's nothing wrong with having money. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. There's nothing wrong with being rewarded for our work. But what don't we want to be able to put the rewards into God's economy is the bottom line. So, yes, he wants us to pursue our reward. He wants us to pursue our dream. He wants us to pursue our vocation. He wants us to pursue our dream. And he wants us to do that, and we'll be rewarded eternally. So it's not just worth it. It's kind of a test. It's kind of to see if you're all in. Do you have what it takes to pursue your dream? Or do you want to be like that bird or that squirrel that just kind of rolls with the flow? Payday isn't necessarily here. Payday, of course, we'll see a payday, and we're going to see income. We're going to see prosperity, frankly. But the real payday, the thing that really matters the most, is going to come after this life. If you think about Christ, Christ, he was suffered here, right? He suffered. He was hated. He was persecuted. He died a horrible, horrible death. But it wasn't until then that he received his reward. So is it worth it? More than half of the graduates of seminary college quit before they complete the college. Why? Because as they delve into the truth and the more that they learn, the more that they say, it's just not worth it. Your rewards are going to come. But we can't sit back. We're not going to be sitting on a fluffy cloud one day, just singing praise songs for all of eternity. It doesn't work that way. Whatever you're doing here, you're being prepared for to do there. So we're going to be busy. We can't totally wrap our head around it, right? But we're going to be busy, and we're going to have, different rewards and our jewels in our crown, if you will. We're going to be at different levels. So if you have a saving grace, a faith of, to be a Christian, you're still going to go to heaven. But if you really want to reign with Jesus and you really want these things, it's going to take a little bit more work. So is it worth it? I can't answer that for you. Only you can answer it for yourself. I know it's worth it to me. Some people whine and fight and kick and stomp the older they get, and frankly, I just love it. I'm not crazy about wrinkles, but hey, it happens to the best of us, right? I'm not trying to hang on to my youth. I am what I am. But I'll tell you one thing. I love the wisdom that comes with age. And I love to be able to look back, and there's hardly anything that I will encounter with other people that I don't have some kind of experience with. And that's not a know-it-all. Believe me, that's that refining fire. And I'm able to bring that wisdom into the life of another. So I like that. And I'm very, very, very excited about where I'm going with my dream. And, again, if you struggle with that, you have to look at what you're naturally inclined to. Where's your passion? What is it that you're driven to? If your dream, or as you've defined it as a dream, is all self-serving, you know what? It's only going to go so far. It's not saying that, for instance, if it's a dream for your business and all you want is to buy a Maserati and to, buy an island, then I'm not saying that's not going to happen. But you won't have that total fulfillment. You'll just be chasing the money. You'll be chasing that part of the dream, but you won't see the full fulfillment of what you were here to do. But if you're, so if it's self-serving, it's only going to go so far, and it's probably not going to be long-lasting. But your dream, if you look at your dream, and if people on this call that are just solely business-minded and you're looking for the why of your business, if you will, I think you're going to find that it goes well beyond yourself. And I've defined that for you guys for myself before. I have my mission, my dream, if you will, in my business is to just pay off my mortgage. I don't have any other debt. I don't ever want to have any other debt as long as I live. And that's not just for me, although it will give me the freedom to do the things, writing, speaking, whatever that is, missions, whatever he calls me to do. I know where I'm naturally inclined, but, we'll see what he has. But as long as I'm in bondage of debt, I don't have that freedom. And so that's first step for me is to free that up. And also the second side of that is, I'm very grateful to have raised 4 children. I have done my part to raise a godly generation. It's miraculous to have a single mom with 4 children that love the Lord. That's just amazing. But I want to leave them the legacy, that we have here. And the Bible talks about children inheriting the land. And so I want to be able to pass that on to the next generation, not encumbered by debt that I have. So you see, what I'm getting at is whatever your dream is, even though you might look at it as a monetary thing, I'm guessing that most people on this call, the dream is bigger than that. It's the monetary things might provide the means. God might just breathe life into your dream if you follow those stages, and you're able to, buy Bibles for third world countries and set up, build hospitals, whatever it is that you're called to do. So money's not the problem, and it's not the issue. Okay, I'm just getting at the fact that your dream is, beyond that. As often is tied to monetary things, but it's much bigger and greater than that. So what will your reward be? You know, is it worth it to you? Are you willing to go through the stages, as painful as they might be? And by the way, it's not like if you build a dream, you go through all those stages we talked about once. Guess what? You go through them every stinking time. You know, every time you build another dream, if you fulfill one and you're off to the next, you're still going to have to look at those stages. So if you're determined to be victorious in this life and you're determined to fulfill the purpose, you know, for why you breathe, why you're here in the first place, understand that logically. So that's been the part that's helped me the most, I think. It's just understanding there is absolutely a process. And I shared with you before, I'm one that if I can understand what's on the horizon, I can deal with anything. And so understanding that it's a perfectly natural, non-negotiable part of that process that we have to go through. Remember, as we were going through each step, there's only one optional phase in there. And really, it's that optional phase after you go through the wasteland and you're heading up Sanctuary Mountain, you're starting to get the, you know, cleanse with the water, and you're starting to, you know, refresh and revive. And a lot of times people make the mistake of saying, I feel great, I'm going to get right back down to the dream. But it's really going all the way to the top of your faith, all the way where you're stretched, and all the way where you're willing to say, you know what, I'm giving my dream back to the one who gave it to me. And when he surrenders it back to you, you're in partnership for all of eternity. And there's nothing that you can't accomplish. And so it's been an amazing process for me, an amazing course for me, and you know, it's coming to a close. So I'd like to, at this point, I'm going to unmute you. You guys might be muted on your side. I'm going to unmute you on my side, and then if there's any questions, comments. So you're all unmuted on my end. So if you got any background noise, mute yourself out. And if you'd like to pipe in with any questions, comments, now's the time.
Hey, Lynn, it's Jack here. Can you hear me?
I can, Jack. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing just well, thanks, Lynn. Just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for taking the time out to do that course. I think it's been good for you and everyone else that's been on this. It certainly helped me a lot as well. The two things that has come out for me that is sort of going to help me to move forward. Number one, I've started a health dream team. It's starting off this week with new people that I'm bringing into the business that I can work with them. And, you know, I think if you sit down and talk with people and find out what is their dream and help them, and so the bottom line is everything is not about us, it's about others. So if we can help them to fulfill their dream, we're going to fulfill our dream, especially in our business.
Right.
Because if we help others, we're going to be successful. So what I've decided to do is between now and December 2018, I'm going to find six A's and to come alongside of those people so that they can get there to fulfill their dream. And if I do just 6, it's going to make a major difference in their lives and our lives. So thank you for that. It's really encouraged me and inspired me, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, thank you, Jack, and you know, thank you for sharing that, because that's a fabulous plan. You know, we all, everybody needs that that border coach. Remember, we talked about the bullies, the border buddies, and then the coach. You know, the dream coach, if you will. Everybody needs somebody to come along, the champion, and they need somebody that's been there, done that. Somebody that doesn't coddle them, but that cheers them on, and they know exactly what they're going through. And so we need that in every area of our life, in our personal life, our business life, our spiritual life. So I think amazing things are going to happen for you and your journey here. Just by coming alongside people like that and walking them through the process, it's going to be amazing. You're going to be blown away by what happens. And the spiritual side of helping them fulfill their dream. It's awesome. So thank you for that, Jack.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? You're muted on my end. You want to pipe in, you need to unmute yourself on your end. Okay, last call. And
Lynn, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just wanted to express my gratitude for not only this series, but the things that you send out. All of it is just, I don't have another word for it other than I'm just grateful and thankful that you take the time to do that. It does make a difference in the lives of people that you haven't even met yet. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, honey. That really encourages me. I almost every day I'll say to somebody, I don't need attaboys. I mean, I'm so past, I just had a high-profile career. I had an ego completely out of whack, and I'm so far past that. I don't need that in my life, but it's so encouraging when somebody will step up and say, you know what, you're making a difference. So you have no idea what those words mean to me. And, it's interesting because, I'm in this business, and I had a lot of darts thrown at me about, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you wasting time doing that? You know what? All I can say is this is what God has for me to do. And it's not that, I'm fulfilling the dream. I'm working within my gifts, and God's blessing me. And so thank you so much for blessing me, Sharon, with your words. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Thank you for that. Anybody else before we conclude the call?
This is Bill Powers, and I would just like to echo Sharon's comments on you. I really appreciate the passion that you share, the vision, the dream vision with others. You've made so much of a difference in my life. And I have a phrase that I use when I try to encourage people, life enricher. Well, I want to change that for you to dream life enricher. You've really made a difference in so many people's lives, and I'd just like to thank you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Again, I just have to echo those words. It means the world to me. I know that, what I'm doing is what he has me do, and for whatever reason he has me doing it, I'm just doing it. Going out in faith, and I'm sure all of you have seen me write at some point. The people will thank me for the words, and I'll say, no, he speaks, I type. It truly is that simple. But thank you so much for that, and you guys have blessed me more than you will ever know. So thank you for that. I appreciate you. I'm going to miss this course. I'm going to miss these voices. I hope that you will join us for that short series. Just in case you weren't on at the beginning of the call, this one's ending tonight, and when you hear from me again, it's going to be an announcement not only for that short course on forgiveness, but all new phone numbers and everything, because the service that we're using gave me notification that changes on the 12th. So you have to keep your eyes and ears open. So what I plan is, I don't know how long it's going to be yet. It's probably going to be 2 to 4 weeks long maybe, and then we'll be taking the rest of the summer off, or I will be. Even Jesus went to the mountain, right? So, but look for that course, because I think forgiveness is a huge part of a stumbling block and a hindrance for so many of us, even in ways that we don't understand that we haven't really forgiven. And as you can tell from what I shared with you tonight, a big part of that, me not being worth it, was I had such a hard time forgiving myself, and I still struggle with that. So hopefully that'll bless you too. So last call. Anybody else before we hang up?
I'd just like to add one more comment. Those who have not met you in person, they have a great opportunity in October to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, plug for the event. Absolutely. I'll be here. I'll be here on the front porch. You guys need to figure it out. What is this, July? So you got time, to figure it out. I believe that if you don't make a commitment, it just never happens. So if you have it on your heart, you want to join us here. We have an amazing lineup. It's just unbelievable. We've got Romy Verdera, Jim Gilliland, Omar Ramirez, Sam Michaels, Bill Powers, Tamia Williams, myself. I mean, it's a crazy lineup at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So if you guys want to, hear amazing training for your business and be spiritually lifted up, this is the place to be. So you can go to livingwatersfarmevent.com. Again, that's livingwatersfarmevent.com. Check it out. We had a great time last year. 27 states and 3 countries showed up, so we're going to see if we can beat that this year. But, if you don't plan it, it never happens, guys. And so maybe you need to get your ticket and then figure out, well, how am I going to get there? Well, I don't know, but, if you want to get here, you'll get here. And so the least of your worries will be to resell your ticket if you have to, God forbid. But, if you don't make the commitment, it's never going to happen. So I hope you do make the commitment. Thank you, Bill Powers, for that plug and that reminder. I'm just so looking forward to October. So I guess that's it for tonight, guys. I'm going to miss you. I look forward to the next series. And as you all know, you can reach out to me anytime you'd like to reach out. I'm here for you. And let's, get through this and keep chasing our dreams together. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye. you.